So I was listening to all the discussions here, and the brokenness that we're feeling, the despair, in your kishkis, as you said, I think all of us we had a hard time sleeping, or are not sleeping, or we're crying, or we're just going through the motions of the day, and we're all feeling that like it's ours, like it's our child's that this happened to. We were praying for these hostages, and you just feel like everything that was expressed here, and why you're here tonight, because you feel you want to be here despite what's happening, that it's so important to be here, that we're here for the mothers, for the fathers, for the parents of the hostages, so they're not holding the pain themselves, but we're taking part and we're holding it. And I was thinking, as all these comments, as you were saying all this, which it was all true and all so beautiful, that the fact that we're feeling this way, the fact that all of us are feeling this way, the fact that we're feeling this way thousands of miles away, that we're not related, and we're sitting here feeling that brokenness as if we're family. And this is happening all over. This is all because we are family. So I just want to, let's take a step back, and this doesn't take away from the pain that we're feeling at all. This doesn't take away from the suffering that we're feeling, but I just want to point out the obvious. And the obvious here is that we're feeling that pain, and we're feeling it as if it's ours because it is ours. In other words, what this is uncovering, because of this horrific tragedy, what is coming out from this is the fact that we're looking deeper into ourselves, and we're realizing we're one family. We're all Am Yisrael. We're all the Jewish people. So if that woman's child was brutally murdered like that, we feel it like it's my kid. We feel it. And think about that feeling for a second. It's horrible, the suffering and the horrible, and the fact that we're so broken in the despair is, but it's also beautiful. It's beautiful that we're feeling that way. It's beautiful that we feel that loss. Not to take away from the tears, but there's a certain beauty in the despair, and there's a certain beauty in the tears that we're suffering, because we're saying, this is us. We're connected. We're one. This is all of us. Let that sink in for a second. The fact that we're here and we can't function, and we're going through our day, and we're restless at night, and we're just thinking about her, and how she was, all of them, how they were screaming out to their children in Gaza. The fact that it's nonstop echoing in our brains means that we're very deeply connected. We've just uncovered, through a horrific, horrific brutality, how much we are one. And that is a beautiful thing. Not that it happened, but the fact that we're feeling that way is a beautiful thing. So our tears are beautiful tears. Our sadness is a beautiful sadness. Our despair, our desolation is a beautiful feeling, because what it is saying is, I'm connected to her. I'm like her. I am her. We are all the mothers of these hostages. We are all the mothers, because we are all Am Yisrael. And I think, I was just thinking as we're saying, I think this is something that's so important to realize, because what is it doing? It's uncovering who we are. It's uncovering our essence. It's uncovering a deep part within ourselves that often we don't even look at, we don't express, we're not in tune with. And if we think about it, that really is what this month, what we're here tonight for. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh Elul. Tonight is Elul, the month of Elul. And the month of Elul is a month of teshuvah, of return. Now, teshuvah is often translated as repentance. That's not what teshuvah is. Teshuvah means to return. What are we returning to? We're returning to who we are. We're uncovering who we are, the essence of what we are. So this really catapulted us. It pushed us into this realization of who we are, that we are Am Yisrael, that we are the Jewish people, that we are special, that we have a relationship. We have a relationship with God. And as angry as we are that God did not answer because we wanted it to be our way, it makes us realize even more so this connection that we have to one another, to each other, to the land of Israel, to all the mothers and fathers that are there, to all the hostages that are there, to all the soldiers who lost their lives. We feel that connection because we have just uncovered the essence of who we are. And that is really what this month is. That's the month of Elul. That's the month of what we are trying to do. We're not, we often look at Elul as the month of Teshuvah, and we have to say, oh, I'm sorry for this sin and sorry for that sin. That's really a very superficial way of looking at it. That's not really looking at what this is, what Teshuvah is. Teshuvah is saying, who am I? Who am I? What motivates me? What makes me happy? What makes me smile? What makes me sad? What triggers me? Who am I? What is my essence? What am I connected to? What am I looking to be connected to? And are my deeds, my actions reflecting that? Are my actions reflecting who I am, what I'm doing? And when we look back historically to this date, the month of Elul until Yom Kippur, that 40-day period, was the third time that Moshe went up to heaven. Okay, the first time he went up after Shavuot, which is Zion Sivan, the 7th day of Sivan. Right after the Jewish people stood and heard the mountain, heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God your God. He went up right after that to receive the Luchot, the 10 Commandments from God. He stayed there for 40 days. He came down on Chaf Tet Av, the 29th of Av. Okay, and when he came down, what did he see? Sorry, he came down on Yud Zayin Tammuz. I'm sorry, that was the next time. He came down on the 17th of Tammuz. He went up on the 7th. 40 days later, on the 17th of Tammuz, he came down. The 17th of Tammuz is a fast day. It's a terrible fast day. It's when
because he saw the
And what did he see then? He saw the Jewish people dancing with the golden calf. He saw them all dancing and celebrating the golden calf. He then went up again. After first he dealt with it, he dealt with the whole situation, he stopped them, and then he went up again on Yud Tet Tammuz, the 19th of Tammuz. He went up to get forgiveness for the Jewish people. He came down 40 days later on the 29th of Av. Which is today, exactly. And he came down with God saying, Pisol Lecha, carve for yourself the Luchot. You just smashed the first Luchot. When he came down the first time, he took those Luchot and he threw them down because he saw them all dancing with the golden calf. Now God says, after the second time, carve for yourself these second Luchot. He then went up a third time on Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is tomorrow, and came down on Yom Kippur. And God said, Salachti kidvarecha, I have forgiven you as you've asked. And the Jewish people were completely forgiven, and the sin was erased. And that's the day, of course, that we celebrate Yom Kippur, which is a day of forgiveness. So when we look at these things, what was happening here? We have three separate things that are happening. The first time Moshe went up, he came down, he sees them dancing. That's the breach. That's the brokenness. That's the breach in the relationship with God. He goes up again, and this time there's this realization that there's a breach. Not always do you realize that there's a breach when something happens. And then finally he goes up again from Rosh Chodesh Elul to Yom Kippur, and that's the repairing the relationship. So what we have happening here is, first the Jewish people are serving this golden calf. There's this breach in the relationship with God. They're doing something that's not their essence. They're doing something that doesn't reflect who they are, what the relationship is supposed to be. They're dancing around this idol when they just accepted God as king over them, and here they're dancing and celebrating an idol. But it takes time after that breach to have the realization, wait, what did I just do? What did we just do? It takes time for that realization to sink in. You know, sometimes you're in a relationship and you do something horrible. You do a terrible thing to your spouse. Never. No, never. He never does. Never. Okay. Some of us do, though. You're in a bad mood. You say something really mean or really nasty, right? No, I believe you don't. And you say something really nasty or you do something really nasty. Okay, there's that breach in the relationship. But it takes time to realize, hold on, is that really what the relationship is? This relationship is so much more important to me. Why did I neglect? Why did I neglect it? Why did I suffocate it? Why did I break it? Why did I do something that harms it so much? So there's that realization, hold on, this is wrong. This is not what I want. And then the third step is, how am I going to repair it? What am I going to do in the relationship to change the relationship? So there's the breach. I did something wrong. And the breach is actually what causes you to have the realization that, oh, this is really not going the way that I want. The relationship isn't the way it's supposed to be. This relationship is important to me. I wasn't acting in a way that showed how important and precious it is. I have that realization that something needs to change, and then we have the actual repairing. How do I repair it? If this relationship means so much to me, and this is so special to me, then how am I going to change my actions to reflect that? To reflect the fact that this relationship is so important to me. How am I going to repair it? So those were the 3 steps of Moshe's going up to heaven, the 3 times. And realize again, I'm going to take a question for just 1 second. Let's just realize again that it's sometimes the breach that causes that new relationship to form. So sometimes it's when we are broken, when we're so broken, as we are today, that we realize that there's a realization that, hold on, look at what this means. This means that this relationship is important. We are feeling like sisters. We are feeling like mothers. We are feeling like this happened to us because there's this realization that we might not have had to that extent of who we are. Yeah, what did you want to ask?
This is a very simple question. The second time he came down with new tablets?
The second time he came down with God saying, Pesalacha, you carve out the tablets. Now you should write it. Because the first tablets were written by God. The second time he came down with God giving him the commandment that you should write these tablets.
And then the third time?
And then the third time God said, Salachti kidvarecha, I have forgiven you. This is completely, God gave him the signs of God's 13 attributes of mercy, and this, which is what we say on Yom Kippur, the lights of God. And he said, Salachti kidvarecha, I have completely forgiven you. So the second time he basically went up to say, God, don't destroy this people, right? Keep this people. And the third time is when God said, so he came down, God's not destroying them, but there wasn't this complete forgiveness. In other words, there was this realization, okay, the Jewish people are going to work on this, but there wasn't the repairing yet. It was only after Yom Kippur that we have now this repairing. We've been forgiven. This new relationship could forge. We're changed people. We have now committed ourselves to a new level of this relationship.
When is it that they said to Moshe, Naaseh v'nishma?
That was on when they received the Torah. That was before that, before he went up. They received the Torah on Zion Sivan, when we received the Torah. Okay. Yeah, and then after that, he went up to, okay, we're in this relationship. And then he comes down and what? They're dancing with the golden calf. That was 40 days later. They're dancing with this golden calf. So here they said, we're in this relationship. It was almost like, that's why he actually took those 10 commandments, those tablets, and he threw it down. It says those commandments were like the marriage contract. So he's saying, I'm breaking the marriage contract to show you this marriage, what you've just done. And so there's no marriage contract here. And then we realized, hold on, what did we just do? This is something so precious to us. We just lost it. We just totally absolved it. What did we just do? That's the realization. And once you have the realization, though, you still need to work on repairing. It's not enough to realize something. You realize your marriage is in shambles. Now, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to repair it? What are you going to change? What are you going to change on a day-to-day basis to show that love, to show the relationship, to show that this is important to me? It's very nice to say, okay, this is important to me, and then not do it, not show it in action. That doesn't do anything. Now I have to actually implement. I have to make that change. And so really, this month of Elul is that way that we are saying, we're reaching out to God and we're saying, we want this relationship. We want to make this important in our lives. It's that month that we realize, hold on, this is something that we do value so much. And that's why this month of Elul, if you know the astrological sign of the month, what is it?
Muslim.
No.
No, Muslim is Tishrei.
Right? No. Elul is, no one's a Virgo here?
Virgo. So what's the symbol?
Between
A virgin.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
A virgin or a bride. Or a bride, right?
Someone is knocking.
It's the it's the symbol is the virgin or the bride. And that's exactly the acronym of the word of Elul. If you take the month of Elul, the acronym of it, we have a few different passages in the Torah that have the acronym of Elul. And one of them is Ani ledodi vidodi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. We're getting closer to our beloved being God. That we're saying, me, I am to my beloved, us, the Jewish people, we are to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. But what does it start with? It starts with, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Who starts, who initiates this relationship? The bride, the me, Ani ledodi, the bride, which is, in this case, Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people. The Jewish people are saying to God, this is important to us. We want to be close to you. We're waking up and we're saying, hold on, God, we need this relationship in our lives. And again, when we say something like going back to our essence, realizing that it's important to us, there's a lot of different ways that we can have a relationship with God. There are some people who say, I'm having a relationship with God because if I don't say al-chet, if I don't say all the things that I've done wrong, then who knows what's going to be. I'm going to be in purgatory afterwards. I'm going to be punished. It's going to be horrible. That's one way of serving God. But when you think about a relationship, imagine a husband and wife, and they're in a relationship, and the husband is acting fine to the wife because he knows if I don't act nicely to the wife, I'm not going to have my supper tonight, right? There's no supper for me tonight. And if I'm really nasty to her, oh boy, I'm really going to be in purgatory. Like she's going to give me back who knows what. She's going to, if I'm not nice to her, who knows how she's going to treat me. I better behave. Is that a relationship? Well, it's a relationship, but it's not a real relationship. It's a very superficial relationship. So you're doing everything right. The husband's doing everything right even. He's being nice. He's going out, he's making a living, he's being kind to her, he's taking out the garbage. But he's doing it in a way because he's afraid if I don't do it, then who knows what's going to be. That's not a real relationship. Right? The real relationship is, I want this closeness with you. I want this, and I want to express the closeness that I feel. I feel this love for you. I feel this attachment, and I want to express it through my actions. That's what Elul is about. that we say to God, we're initiating. We say, God, this is something we realize that the whole year things have gone in a way that maybe we're not expressing our love to you. Maybe we're not expressing our attachment to you. Maybe we're acting in a way that doesn't really show who we are at our essence. It's time to be who we are. Ani ledodi. And then God reciprocates, vidodi li. God is reciprocating and saying, I am to my beloved. I'm showing you my love.
Dodi is beloved?
Beloved.
Oh.
Dodi.
Dodi, yeah.
Dodi is uncle.
That's uncle, right. That's uncle also. But no, here it is that.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we see that this starts this relationship going, and we're working on the relationship. We're trying. We're saying we want to show God that this is something that we love. So what could it mean on a practical level? The way that we go about doing things. We do it with enthusiasm. We do it with happiness. When we do a mitzvah, we do it not because I have to do a mitzvah, but because this is something that expresses who I am. This is my essence. Not because, oh, it's Shabbos again. This is Shabbat. It's beautiful. That we do it with an enthusiasm that this is who I am. This is my essence. This is Am Yisrael. This is who my people. This is who I am. This reflects me. And we start working in that way until comes Rosh Hashanah, and we blow the shofar. We blow the shofar, which is coming from deep within. It's coming from our essence. And we're blowing, and our essence is reaching up to God. And it reaches up, that's what the shofar blowing is. We're blowing from deep within ourselves, reaching up to God. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. And then Yom Kippur comes, and we're right there in God's presence. It's like the Kohen Gadol would go into the Holy of Holies. We're right there, the holiest day of the year. And why is it that on Yom Kippur we don't eat and we don't drink and we don't put on creams and we don't not because on Tisha B'Av we do the same things. On Tisha B'Av we don't do it because we're mourning. Yom Kippur we're not mourning, it's a holiday. We wear our best clothes, we wear our beautiful clothes. But we're showing God, I'm not eating, I'm not drinking because I'm in your presence. This is so important to me. It's like a person who's in the king's palace. If the person's in the king's palace, are you going to start saying, oh, well, I'm kind of got my stomach's kind of grumbling. I forgot to eat my chocolate chip cookie today. Where is that? So we're right there in front of the king. We're not feeling that. We're not distracted, let's put it that way. We're not going to be distracted by our food or by our drink, by our morning coffee. We're right there in front of the king. And then comes the holiday of Sukkot, where God is then descending to us. We live in the Sukkah, and God is saying, you went up to me, you came to me, and now Sukkot is when God comes to our Sukkah. God comes down, Dodili, God comes down to us, into our Sukkah, and stays with us and celebrates with us. And we're now in a time of Simchat Torah. We're dancing and celebrating this relationship. So that's what Elul and Tishrei are all about. Now, how do we get there, though? Like sometimes, this Ani Ladodi is very nice, but if I'm so involved in myself and I'm so covered up with the things that I do on a day-to-day, what's awakening me? What's opening me up? What's saying, hold on, let's examine what your life is looking like and let's open yourself up to a new reality of the relationship. Sometimes you get into this pattern of a relationship where you're both in a rush, it's morning, he's running, you're running, and that's how your day goes, and that's how your month goes, and that's how your weeks go, and that's just how your years go. And you're so into that schedule where you're just kind of two ships in a sail, that ships in the river that just sail past each other, that you're not really waking up to, hold on, this is the most important relationship to me. So what wakens us? So what wakens us, it says, is that even though it's coming, Anila Dodi, even though it comes from us saying to God this, in truth, God is coming for us to us. And God is awakening us. How do we see this? The month of Elul is called the month when the king is in the field. And the example given for this month is that the king, imagine a king. We don't really have such kings nowadays that we look at with such, but imagine a king living in this beautiful palace, and the king leaves his palace and he goes to the field. He goes to where the farmers are, where the orchards are, where the people are working in the field. And the king goes to them. And the people are now in their overalls, in their work clothes, and they can approach the king. They can approach the king and ask the king for whatever they want. And this is the metaphor that's given for the month of Elul, where the king, God, is coming to us. The month of Elul is not a month which is, we don't have any holidays. There's no special holidays. There's no Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, nothing. There's no holidays throughout the month. So it's a mundane month, but it's a special month. It's a special month because it's the month when the king is approaching us in our mundane life, in our work life. We're not leaving the work life. We're in the work life. We're doing everything that we always do. We're working. We're not keeping Shabbat and having that holy we keep Shabbat, but we're not keeping the holidays where we're having this special aura. We're working. We're doing the regular everyday work. But within the work, the king is coming to us and saying, ask me, what do you want? Let's remember this relationship. The king is approaching us. The only thing that we have to do is actually go from our field to the king, to go and go close to him. So the month of Elul is called this refuge in time, this time lapse, where the king actually comes to us. Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, we're joining the king in the palace, right? The king is in the palace. We're going to the synagogue. We're sitting there and praying. We're in our beautiful clothing. We're doing all the holiday mitzvot. We're completely embracing the holiness. We're not living mundane life. We're not going out to work. We're not going out to our exercise class. We're not doing all the stuff that we always do. We're now doing only the Shabbat, the holiday, the Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Kippur things. Yom Kippur, for sure, we're in front of the king. We're in the king's palace. We're completely holy. We're doing such holy things we can't even eat or drink. We're so holy. We're not even thinking about ourselves. But Elul, we're right there in the field. And the king is coming to us. And the king is saying to us, let's make this a deeper relationship. And I'm waiting for you in the palace. I'm waiting for you to come to me, with me into the palace. I'm inviting you. You. I'm inviting you to come with me into the palace. You know? And then, of course, you wear your clothes and you get dressed up, because in the palace, not everyone could come. Only the officers. You need to have your credentials. You need to be invited to the palace. You need to have that invitation. You need to come. There's a hierarchy. You need to come to the special rooms, and only certain rooms that you can get into, and the higher officials can go into other rooms. But in the field, everyone's equal. Everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're Mr. Schmo or if you're Mr. Big Shot. Everyone could come. Come, approach me, God is saying. Come and ask whatever you want, because this is where we reframe and we start saying this relationship is important to us. Just come. Come, God says. And that's really the specialness of this month of Elul, this month that we're starting right now. So it is a month where we try to change ourselves, because it's a month that we try to be more introspective, where we start thinking about this relationship that we have, and how can we make this relationship a more meaningful relationship. Now, there's another, we said the acronym for Elul is Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li. There's another acronym for Elul from another pasuk in the Torah, which is actually referenced in this week's Torah portion. The idea is referenced in this week's Torah portion. The acronym is not. And the words are, Ina liyado v'samti lach. That God is saying, I caused it to happen, v'samti lach, and I will provide for you. What is this talking about?
I don't
It's
know.
like, yeah, what is this talking about? So it's very interesting. This is talking about a situation where a person has inadvertently killed. And God is saying, this person has inadvertently killed, and God is saying, Liyado, I've made it happen to him. I've made him do this act of killing. But now I've given V'samti lach, I've given you places to go to, which is the Ir Miklat. Does anyone know what an Ir Miklat is?
The city of refuge,
A city of refuge. What does that mean, a city of refuge?
where you can go there and, sort of wait out, right, be safe until, what was it, the Kohen Gadol, right?
Akoy Gadol.
Go, right, is the next one comes or something? Yeah.
Right. Okay, so yes, so what happens is, if a person has inadvertently somehow been neglectful, and as a result someone died because of him, he didn't intentionally try to kill somebody, he wasn't looking so carefully, he was backing up from his driveway, whatever it is, and God forbid he inadvertently killed somebody, he then has to run to this Ir Miklat, to the city of refuge, because the person, the Goel Hadam, anyone know what a Goel Hadam is? Goel Hadam.
They have it in the Arabim.
Oh, the,
They have it.
victim.
Oh, interesting. So yes, the Goel
Yes.
Hadam is a person who's related to the
Yes.
person that was killed. He's a relative. He's a
Mikladam.
He's a blood avenger. He is a blood avenger. He is supposed to run after this person. If this person does not go to the Ir Miklat, he can kill the person. He can kill him for killing his relative. So the nearest relative can kill this person who inadvertently killed somebody. He can kill him for killing his relative. But the person who has inadvertently killed runs to the Ir Miklat, and there he is saved. He stays in the Ir Miklat, and there he is safe, he is saved. Now, even if a person purposely killed somebody, God forbid, the same situation. The person has the Goel Hadam, can kill this person until he runs to the Ir Miklat, because he needs to run there until he's actually tried by the Beit Din, till they actually make a trial. If he's convicted, he might face death penalty if he did it intentionally, if he did it b'mezid. If he's not convicted, then that's a different story. But he also runs to this Ir Miklat, to the city of refuge. Okay? So in this week's Torah portion, it talks about this city of refuge. And it talks in this week's Torah portion in Parsha Shoftim, which is all about rules and laws, Shoftim, judges you should make. It talks about this Ir Miklat and how, interestingly, it says, when God expands your borders and makes the land of Israel larger, then we have an obligation to add 3 extra cities of refuge. And this is referring to the Messianic era, because the Messianic era is when God is going to expand the borders of the land of Israel. And this has never happened yet. So we have a mitzvah in the Torah that never ever was done, because it has to happen when Mashiach comes. And this is actually one of the proofs that Mashiach is coming, because there's a mitzvah in the Torah that was never done yet, that we are obligated to do. And this is talking about when God expands our borders, we make these extra 3 Ir Miklat, these extra 3 cities of refuge. So let's talk a little about what happens with this Ir Miklat. We said this person kills inadvertently. According to a deeper understanding, nothing happens inadvertently. So if someone kills inadvertently, it really, because he was being careless, the reason why he's killed is because the person who he killed had to be punished for some reason. And nothing happens just by it's all like a puzzle, and all the pieces of the puzzle fit in perfectly. But what happens here? The person killed, so he has to run to this Ir Miklat. Person spilled blood, he runs to the Ir Miklat, because if he doesn't, the Goel Hadam, the blood avenger, is going to kill him. On a deeper level, what this is saying, this is an actual mitzvah in the Torah, but on a deeper level, what this is saying is when a person does a sin, when a person sins, what we are actually doing is spilling blood. We're spilling blood from, we have two parts of us. We have the divine self and the animalistic self. We're spilling the divine self and turning into the animalistic self. We're killing almost this divine self. We're spilling its blood and becoming this animalistic self. So we've deadened the divine part of ourselves as we've turned into this animalistic self. This happens every time we do a sin. Every time we sin and we're not true to who we are. Every time we're greedy. Every time we're selfish. Every time we're self-centered and we couldn't care less about somebody else. We are killing that divine part of ourselves that's altruistic, that wants good things, that wants holiness. We've just deadened it as we've been involved with our more animalistic, egotistic, selfish part of ourselves. So what happens when this person does that? When this person does that, it says he has to flee, he has to run to the Ir Miklat. He has to run to the city of refuge. And he has to stay there and live there. And he lives there and all his needs are taken care of. It's not like he's punished. You know, he has everything that he needs. In fact, it says that if he needs his Torah teacher, the Torah teacher has to move there so that he can learn there. Because the point of the Ir Miklat is to be introspective, to start thinking about your life, to start thinking about yourself, to start returning to who you really are meant to be. Not to punish, but to change, to rehabilitate. We don't believe in prisons as a form of punishment, but we believe in prisons as a form of rehabilitation, to rehabilitate the individual. That's what the Ir Miklat is, a city of refuge where he can change and become a different person, a changed person. Now, who's the Goel Hadam here? Who's this? And this metaphor that we're understanding, that the person has actually committed a blood, he's deadened his divine soul, and he's strengthened his animalistic self because he committed the sin. So he needs to flee from this animalistic self. If you remember when we spoke about the Jews leaving Egypt, we said the Jews, but Bayanas, the nation ran. Why did we have to run? Because you can take the Jews out of Egypt, but you can't take Egypt out of the Jews, right? You can
say that about the Bronx.
About the Bronx, I know, right?
Exactly.
I was thinking that, right? Exactly. Meaning, they had to flee from Egypt because Egypt was so much a part of their mentality, a part of who they were, that they had to run from it, or else they would have become that. So they had to run out of Egypt because they were so immersed in the depravity of Egypt that had they stayed there a little bit longer, Egypt would become them. So they're running out of it. And here too, the person who has killed has to run into the Ir Miklat. He has to flee. He has to run away from who he has become. This person who has focused on his animalistic self rather than the divine self. He's deadened the divine self and he's focusing on the given vitality to his animalistic self. He has to run away from that part of himself. And he has to dwell. He has to really think about, sit in the Ir Miklat, think about who he has become and change himself. So this all fits in, but then who's the Goel Hadam in this metaphor? Who's that Goel Hadam who's able to kill him, to run after him?
Conscious?
Yes. Well, kind of. The Goel Hadam is the conscious, but in a negative way. It's actually the Yetzar Hara, the evil inclination, the Satan. It says the Satan is actually an angel of death. And the Satan goes after the person and says to the person, oh, you just killed, not deadened, not made it less sensitive. You've actually killed your divine self. You're not connected at all to your divine self. You're no longer a divine person. You're no longer a divine human being. This is that part of us sometimes that says that after we've sinned, after we've done something wrong. Oh, you see? This is who you really are. This is what you think you're a holy person. You're no holy person. This is what you are. You've just showed your true colors. This is you. And the Ir Miklat says, hold on. No. We go to the Ir Miklat. We have to come to the realization of who we are. We have to uncover who we really are. We're not that animalistic self. We are that divine self. We might have done something wrong. We might have strayed from who we are, but we are that divine self. Don't listen to that voice, whether it's a voice of somebody else saying it to you, or whether it's your own voice. Whether the Goel Hadam is you, or whether the Goel Hadam is somebody else. Don't listen to that voice that says to you, you just completely, irreparably damaged your relationship to God. You are no longer a holy person. You are an unholy person. You are not holy. You are animalistic. That is who you are. That is your essence. Don't listen to that. That is the Goel Hadam. Run away from that and go into this Ir Miklat, this city of refuge, which is understanding. This is the month of Elul, this time period of refuge, this time period of introspection, where we think about who we are, what we are, and we reconnect to the essence of who we are. And that, my dear friends, is really the message of this month.
What do you mean this month?
Of this month, the month of Elul. The month of
Yeah.
Elul.
Oh, I thought this is the last.
Oh, no. That's the message of this month, of what we're doing. Right.